The Indiana Fever have been stirring up major headlines this offseason. But now, the real shocker has come from none other than Erica Wheeler. After months of speculation, the veteran guard is finally speaking up, with all the buzz surrounding Caitlyn Clark and the Fever's massive overhaul. The big question on everyone's mind is, will Wheeler stay? Or is she packing her bags? And what does this mean for the team's future in Indiana? Well, Wheeler's recent explosive comments could very well shake things up for the Fever as they prepare for the 2024 WNBA season. Stick with us as we dive into Wheeler's plans, her take on Caitlyn Clark, and the truth about what's really happening behind closed doors in Indiana. Let's get into it. The Indiana Fever are at the heart of a seismic shift in WNBA history. With Caitlyn Clark joining the team, everything about this franchise is changing. While the spotlight is on the rookie sensation, there's another pressing question that can't be ignored. What's going on with Erica Wheeler? For years, Wheeler has been the steady veteran guiding the Fever through thick and thin, as the team struggled to find its true identity. But now, as Indiana evolves into a powerhouse everyone's keeping an eye on, her place in the squad is suddenly up in the air. Will she stay, or is she seeking a bigger stage elsewhere? And how does she feel about Caitlyn Clark stealing the spotlight? Finally, Erica Wheeler has spoken out, and her words shed light on everything happening behind closed doors in Indiana. She's not just talking as a player, she's speaking as someone who's lived through it all. And trust me, she has a lot to share about what the future holds. Wheeler just dropped her own podcast. And her first guest? None other than Kelsey Mitchell, one of the Fever's key players. From the very first moment, you could tell this was no ordinary media interview. It was raw, unfiltered, and completely real. Just two players laying it all out about what's really happening inside the organization. And right off the bat, Wheeler made a statement that set the stage for everything to come. Indiana is the new Hollywood. Everybody wants to sit courtside. Everybody wants to see us play. Bold words, but is she wrong? The Fever went from being a team barely on anyone's radar, always stuck at the bottom of the standings, to suddenly becoming the hottest ticket in the WNBA. All because of Caitlyn Clark. Whether you're a fan or not, it's impossible to ignore the massive impact she's had. Ticket sales through the roof, merchandise flying off the shelves, and national attention that's bigger than ever. Both Wheeler and Mitchell acknowledged that Clark's presence has completely changed the way people view the Fever. And while some players might hesitate to embrace the media circus around Clark, Wheeler didn't hold back. She has a big part of why the world is watching us. We've got to give her flowers. Not every WNBA veteran would say that. Some have expressed frustration over Clark getting so much attention while other league stars have been grinding for years with little recognition. But Wheeler sees the bigger picture. For someone who's been in Indiana through it all, this is a massive change. For the first time in a long time, the Fever aren't just hoping to be relevant, they are relevant. And now, we're faced with the biggest question. Where does Erica Wheeler fit into this new Fever equation? For years, she's been the steady, reliable leader in Indiana, guiding the younger players and helping shape the culture. But now, with Caitlyn Clark stepping in as the face of the franchise, does that shift everything? The way Wheeler spoke made it clear, she's been thinking long and hard about her future. She was measured with her words, but the uncertainty in her voice was undeniable. She made it clear that, for now, she still sees herself as part of the Fever, but she didn't promise anything beyond that. The truth is, at 32 years old, winning has never been more important to her. And let's face it, the Fever haven't exactly been a championship contender for some time. So the burning question is, does Wheeler believe Indiana is truly ready to compete for a title? Or is she eyeing a team that can give her a better shot at a championship? One of the most telling things she shared was how much she's seen Indiana change over the years. In her time with the Fever, she's played under 4 different head coaches. That level of instability makes it nearly impossible to build something lasting. And Wheeler admitted that for a long time, Indiana felt like a team that was just trying to find its way. But now, things are different. Wheeler opened up about how early in her career, she wasn't sure if she'd sink or swim in Indiana. She confessed that she wasn't always sure her spot was secure. And that's huge, because despite Wheeler's impressive career, it hasn't been smooth sailing. She's had to fight for her place on the team every single year. And now, as a veteran, she's facing another challenge, proving she still belongs on this squad. Caitlyn Clark's arrival has completely shaken things up. And Wheeler knows it. For years, she's been the backbone of this team. But now, with a player like Clark coming in, someone who's expected to take charge of the offense, run the show, and become the new face of the franchise, where does that leave Wheeler? Does she step into more of a mentor role? Will she still get significant playing time? Or is she slowly being phased out as the Fever enter this new era? That's where things get complicated. Wheeler has been a fan favorite. But at this stage of her career, she needs answers. She needs to know exactly what her role will be. And if Indiana can't provide that clarity, there's a real chance she might start looking elsewhere. While she didn't confirm it outright, she didn't deny it either. Wheeler's been around long enough to understand the business side of the WNBA. Loyalty only gets you so far. Sometimes you have to make a choice that's best for you. And that's exactly what she's weighing right now. Does she stay and be a part of this exciting new chapter for Indiana, even if her role is diminished? Or does she pursue a team that will give her more court time and a better shot at a championship? It's not an easy decision. And the way she spoke about it on her podcast made it clear she's still figuring it out. But one thing's for sure, she's not the type to stick around just for the sake of it. She's a competitor through and through, and if she doesn't see a clear path to victory in Indiana, she won't hesitate to make a change. Still, it's clear she loves the Fever. She's deeply invested in this team and is excited about what's happening in Indiana. That's what makes this situation so tricky, because for the first time in years, the Fever have a legitimate shot at contention. And Wheeler now has to decide if she wants to be a part of it. Her comments were clear. She respects Caitlyn Clark, sees the potential in this team, and knows the Fever are on the rise. But the real question is, where does Erica Wheeler fit into all of this? From the way she spoke, it seemed like she wants to stay, but only if she still has a meaningful role. If not, well, let's just say this won't be the last we hear of Erica Wheeler and free agency rumors. One thing is certain. She's not going to sit on the bench and watch the Fever rise. She wants in on the action. And if Indiana can't offer her that, someone else will. That's where things get really interesting, because the Fever are building something special. But will Wheeler still be around when it all comes together? That's the big question, and the answer might be closer than we think. As the WNBA continues to evolve, one thing is crystal clear. The Indiana Fever are no longer just another team. They're at the heart of one of the most exciting transformations in recent league history. And Erica Wheeler feels it more than anyone. But with change comes uncertainty. And Wheeler finds herself caught right in the middle. After her recent podcast chat with Kelsey Mitchell, fans are left wondering, is Erica Wheeler staying with the Fever? Or is she looking for something new? In part 1, we discussed how Wheeler has seen it all in Indiana, from the struggles to the coaching changes to the uncertainty. She's been through it all. But now, with Caitlyn Clark leading the charge, everything is different. So, where does that leave Wheeler? Her comments on the podcast raised some serious questions. But there's more to unpack here because this situation isn't just about her future. It's about the Fever's new identity and how Wheeler fits into that puzzle. For years, the Fever haven't been true contenders. But now, they've got the talent, the national spotlight, and a new leader in Caitlyn Clark. The challenge? Finding the balance between veteran leadership and building around Clark. And that's where Erica Wheeler's situation becomes even more complicated. On her podcast, she opened up about how much change she's seen in Indiana, 4 different head coaches, a constantly rotating roster, and a franchise that, until now, never had the stability it needed to compete. But now, for the first time in ages, the Fever have a clear vision. And that vision centers around Caitlyn Clark, Aaliyah Boston, and Kelsey Mitchell. That's the core moving forward. Wheeler respects it. She sees the potential. But it also means her role isn't guaranteed anymore. And for any veteran player, that's a tough pill to swallow. Here's the cold hard truth. Wheeler is still a talented guard. She still has value. But if the Fever are focused on youth and development, does she fit into that picture? That's why her next decision is so crucial. She's at a crossroads. Does she accept a smaller role in Indiana, serving as a mentor while contributing off the bench? Or does she chase a new opportunity that offers a bigger role and a real shot at a title? It's not an easy choice. On the one hand, staying with the Fever makes sense. The team is finally heading in the right direction. The energy around the franchise is electric. The fan base is growing. And the Fever are exciting to watch. And let's face it, playing with Caitlyn Clark is an opportunity in itself. Clark is one of the most hyped rookies in WNBA history. Playing alongside her means more exposure, more national TV appearances, and more chances to shine. That alone makes staying incredibly tempting. But, on the other hand, what if her minutes start to shrink? What if the Fever prioritize developing younger players over keeping veterans like Wheeler in the rotation? That's where things get tricky. And Wheeler knows it. She's been in the league long enough to understand how this business works. She's seen teams part ways with veteran players before. And if she senses the end is near in Indiana, she might just leave before she's pushed out. So, if Wheeler does decide to move on, where could she go? Now, that's where things get really interesting. Because there are several teams that could use a veteran point guard like her. She may not be in her prime, but she still brings leadership, experience, and a steady presence on the floor, all things contending teams need. A few options come to mind. The Dallas Wings, who need a veteran guard to help stabilize their backcourt. The Washington Mystics, who are in a rebuilding phase but could use a steady hand. The Minnesota Lynx, who are building and aiming for a return to championship form. Or what about a return to the Atlanta Dream? A team on the rise, with history that Wheeler knows all too well. The point is, if Wheeler wants to keep playing a significant role, there are plenty of teams willing to offer her that opportunity. But leaving Indiana? That's no easy decision. Here's the thing. Wheeler is adored in Indiana. She's been there through the worst of times, sticking with the franchise when things were tough. And now, just as they're finally getting national recognition, does she really want to walk away? That's the dilemma she's facing. On the podcast, she opened up about her journey with the Fever, the struggles, the ups and downs, the growth. But what really stood out was how she spoke about Caitlyn Clark. She's not bitter. She's not jealous. She's embracing it. That says a lot about who Wheeler is, both as a player and as a person. She's a leader, someone who sees the bigger picture. She understands that Clark's success means success for the entire team. But knowing that and accepting a smaller role are two very different things. Let's be real, Wheeler is a competitor. She's not the type to just sit on the bench and watch. So if the Fever can't promise her a real role, she'll have to make a tough choice. Stay and accept whatever role they give her. Or leave and find a team that still sees her as a key player. That's the decision she's weighing. And it's not an easy one. Both options come with their risks. If she stays in Indiana, she might get sidelined as the team focuses on their young core. If she leaves, she's starting over, new team, new system, new expectations. But one thing is clear, whatever she decides, she's doing it on her terms. Wheeler has never been one to let others dictate her fate. She's earned the right to make this choice for herself. And whichever direction she goes, one thing is certain, she's not done yet. So, what happens next? That's the big question. Because while this is about Wheeler's future, it's also about the direction the Fever are heading. They're building something special, and Wheeler has to decide whether she wants to be a part of it, or if it's time to move on. Either way, the WNBA world will be watching closely. This isn't just about one player, it's about a franchise stepping into a new era. And where Wheeler fits into that picture, we're about to find out. So, what do you think? Will Erica Wheeler stay in Indiana and help lead the Fever into a new era? Or is she ready to move on? Drop your thoughts in the comments because I want to hear what you think about her future. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into Erica Wheeler's plans and the Fever's transformation, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more WNBA updates. We'll be covering everything going on with Caitlyn Clark, the Fever, and the entire league. So turn those notifications on so you don't miss out. That's it for today. Until next time, stay tuned and keep hooping.